Still talking about functions. In this video, we'll be talking about how to pass by reference and how to return a global variable in PHP. I hope you guys are ready to learn this, and as usual, we'll be driving ourselves into the code area itself. So back to our functions in-depth.php file. First of all, talking about passing by reference in our PHP functions. This simply means we are creating a variable and then we are creating another variable. One serves as a reference to the other variable, which means they both handle the same value. Once the value for one changes, the other one changes instantly. Alright, enough of the talking. Let's create a function. Like right now, I want to create a function and I'm going to name the function numbers. In this function, I am going to be creating two arguments, which are name1 and name2. Fair enough. Now, one thing you have to notice is this. Each of these variables are preceded with the ampersand symbol. This is to show that this variable and this variable are referential variables. Fair enough. So in this case now we want to specify the actions to be carried out by this function. Very simple. Set the name1 parameter to the value 1000 and then set the name2 to the value 7000. And why am I using name? For some reason this doesn't make sense to me, so I'm just gonna change from name to num. That makes more sense here. Same here, I would have to change this to num and this also to num. So right now we have num1 and num2 variables. Alright, now that being said and done, what we want to do right now is create two variables outside the function just before we call the function. So I'm going to name my first variable n1 and I'm going to set it to the number, say 200, and another variable n2 to the number, say 500. Fair enough. And at this point I'm going to tell PHP to echo the value for n1, and I'm also going to have to echo the value for n2. So at this point I want to make this a bit clear, so I'm going to place them within double quotes and then say first number colon space and let me add the HTML new line. I'm going to do the same thing for n2. I'm going to add quote here, and this time around I'm going to say second number and set it to n2 of course, and not forget my new line. That being said and done, we're expecting PHP to output this number and this number for us right here. Very simple, eh? And on this line now I want to call that function that we created earlier numbers. So I'm going to supply the variable n1 like this and n2 like this. Fair enough. And that being said and done, I want to repeat this same echo process right after the numbers function has been called. Alright, I know this looks a bit funny, but you understand what I am trying to pass across in the next few seconds. So when I save this and refresh this, you would notice something interesting has happened. You'll notice that at first when we asked to echo n1, we got 200 right here. Next up, we asked to echo 500, which is n2, and we got it right here. But then at this point, after calling the function numbers and then pass the variables n1 and n2, Well, the answer is no. You know why? Because this is not just a variable, but a referential variable. So at the point when we say we want n1 variable to enter here as its parameter, we're automatically saying that the number referenced to num1 should be automatically assigned to n1. And so that is what happens here when we ask to print n1 and got 1000, which is the value for num1 within the function. And the same exact thing happened to n2 at this point. So that is that about passing by reference in PHP. I know this might be a bit tough to wrap your minds around at this point, but if you take a closer look at this example, it will become very clear to you. Still talking about functions in PHP, we want to talk about how to return a global variable, and that is fairly simple. To see this in action, I'll have to quickly create a function. Let me call the function myName. This function will not take in any parameter. All I'll simply do is come here and say global, and of course that is how you declare a global variable. Then the name given to your variable, I'll just call this one name. After that, I will assign name a value, so I will be assigning name to my name, and I've chosen this to be my name. Nice to meet you. Now, at this point, how do we get access to this variable name? Remember, we declared it as a global variable. Very simple. Just outside the function, all you need to do now is call the function myName. And once you have called this function, you now have full access to this variable. So if I ask to echo name, for example, I'm not typing this correctly. Let me type it correctly. Name, just echo the variable name. What are we expecting? Once I refresh my web page, you notice it outputs my name nicely. And that is how easy it is for us to gain access to a global variable. Simply call the function in which the variable resides first, and then do anything you like with the variable. And so that is that about functions in depth in PHP. We have learned a lot and we've seen the power of functions. So far so good. In the next video, I want to talk about another interesting concept about functions. And as usual, I'm waiting for you. Meet me there.